Welcome back to All About Medieval Times. Today, we're diving into one of the most challenging aspects of medieval life, how peasants survived freezing winters. Imagine no central heating, no insulated clothing, and no grocery stores. How did they make it through the coldest months of the year? The answer is equal parts ingenuity, resilience, and sheer determination. Let's uncover their secrets. Medieval winters were brutal. Temperatures often dropped well below freezing, and snow could blanket the ground for months. For peasants, survival wasn't just about staying warm, it was about finding food, shelter, and avoiding illness in a world without modern comforts. Life for medieval peasants was hard year-round, but winter was especially dangerous. Crops couldn't grow, livestock struggled to survive, and the risk of starvation and disease was high. So, how did they cope? Let's break it down. First, let's talk about shelter. Peasant homes were simple, often made of wood, mud, and thatch. They were small, cramped, and not exactly airtight, but they were designed to retain as much heat as possible. Inside, the main source of heat was the hearth. Peasants would gather around the fire for warmth, cooking, and light. But here's the catch. The smoke from the fire had to escape somehow, so homes were often filled with soot and smoke. Breathing in that air wasn't exactly healthy, but it was better than freezing. To keep the cold out, peasants used whatever materials they could find. They stuffed cracks in the walls with straw or mud, hung thick curtains over doors, and even brought their livestock inside to share body heat. Yes, you heard that right. Cows and chickens were winter roommates. Food was a major concern during winter. With no fresh crops, peasants had to rely on what they had stored from the harvest. Grains like barley and rye were staples, often turned into bread or porridge. But here's the thing, storing food wasn't easy. Without refrigeration, peasants used techniques like salting, smoking, and drying to preserve meat and fish. Vegetables like turnips, onions, and cabbage were stored in root cellars, where the cool, dark environment kept them from spoiling. Peasants also foraged for whatever they could find, like nuts, berries, and even tree bark. And if times got really desperate, they might resort to eating acorns or grinding dried peas into flour. It wasn't gourmet, but it kept them alive. Staying warm meant dressing for the weather, but medieval peasants didn't have the luxury of modern fabrics. Their clothing was made from wool, linen, and animal skins, materials that were durable but not always cozy. To combat the cold, peasants layered up. They wore tunics, cloaks, and mittens, often patched together from old garments. And here's a surprising fact. They sometimes lined their clothes with straw or moss for extra insulation. It might sound uncomfortable, but it worked. Footwear was another challenge. Peasants wore simple leather shoes or boots, often stuffed with straw or wrapped in rags to keep their feet warm. But in deep snow, they sometimes resorted to wooden clogs or even walking barefoot. Surviving winter wasn't a solo effort. It required community. Peasants relied on each other for support, sharing resources and helping those in need. Villages often had communal ovens for baking bread, and neighbors would take turns feeding livestock or chopping firewood. And if someone fell ill, the community would pitch in to care for them. It was a tough life, but they were in it together. Winter was also a time for festivals and celebrations. Events like Christmas and Twelfth Night provided a much-needed break from the monotony and hardship of daily life. Peasants would feast, dance, and forget their troubles, at least for a little while. Winter brought its own set of health challenges. Colds, flu, and respiratory infections were common, and without modern medicine, peasants had to rely on traditional remedies. Herbs like chamomile and mint were used to treat coughs and fevers, while honey was a popular remedy for sore throats. But here's the catch, many of these treatments were based on superstition rather than science, so they didn't always work. More extreme treatments, like bloodletting or applying leeches, were also common. And if someone got seriously ill, there wasn't much that could be done. Winter was a dangerous time, and many peasants didn't survive to see the spring. Religion played a big role in helping peasants cope with winter. Churches provided not just spiritual comfort but also practical support, like distributing food and alms to the poor. Prayer was a way to seek protection from the harsh elements, and saints associated with winter, like Saint Nicholas, were especially revered. But here's the irony. While religion offered hope, it also reinforced the idea that suffering was part of God's plan. So, how did medieval peasants survive freezing winters? Through a combination of ingenuity, resilience, and community. They faced unimaginable hardships, but they found ways to adapt and endure. Their story is a testament to the strength of the human spirit, and a reminder of how far we've come. If you enjoyed this deep dive into medieval life, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more fascinating history content. Let us know in the comments, could you survive a medieval winter? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.